Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard to the newest episode of Dropkicks and Attractions. I am, of course, your pop culture powerhouse and the retro renegade and the nostalgic nightmare, Xander and Victus. I have decided on those names.
I like them.
Thank you. I am joined by my close personal friend, Big Boct. Hello, sir.
Hello, Xander. How are things going for you today?
Not too bad. Sipping on a delicious beverage.
Yep, me too.
Got me a strawberry bubblicious ghost.
Sounds good.
And so, yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the go-home show for Raw before King of the Ring, which we will be covering next week. So that means no top fives at all next week. Still doing Tubi or not Tubi and all that stuff. No top fives next week. And then the week after that, not only are we doing Raw on Saturday night, we're also doing Clash of the Champions 23. So we got a lot of wrestling coming up in the next couple weeks.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be busy.
Mm-hmm. So let's hop into it to the concession stand. What are you consuming as a consumer?
Pretty much the same stuff I've been consuming. Still going through Atop the Fourth Wall. I've hit 2015 on that.
Mm-hmm.
Technology Connections, watching him connect different technologies, how they work together.
Sure.
There's a really fascinating one he did about how rice cookers work, the old ones.
How's that? What's the TLDR on that, rather?
While there's liquid water in a pot, the pot can't get higher than water's boiling point because physics.
Oh, okay.
So once the water's boiled off, the rice is done, it can get hotter, and there's a magnet that keeps it engaged that stops being magnetic just a little bit above that boiling point.
Huh. I actually do find that stuff interesting. Like, I was never good at science. I always found it interesting, though, unlike math, where not only was I not good at it, I didn't like it.
I gotcha.
Like, science satiated my curiosity.
Yeah, I was always good at the sciences. I had thought for a long time I was going to go into a scientific pursuit, but it just never happened.
Yeah, I also thought I was going to be on the SWAT team growing up, too, so.
I gotcha.
How
about you, Xander? What are you watching?
No, basically the same old stuff. You know, I've been working on trying to work on my rebranding for all my other stuff we'll talk about towards the end of the show.
Right.
I did come across, I got to find it. This is a channel on a Twitter page, WCW Deep Cuts. The guy shows a lot of, like, especially from the 90s, like WCW Saturday Night and Pro and, like, all those, like, B shows that were syndicated.
Cool.
He has, he'll show them. And then he has a Twitch channel that I've been onto a couple times. We were talking in the chat, everybody was watching, I think, was it WCW Saturday Night from, like, 95 or one of the, it was something from 95. It was, like, a couple months before Nitro started.
Okay.
The show, because I'm a big Mr. T fan. I grew up watching Mr. T, A-Team, Rocky 3. He had a cartoon. He had a cereal. Like, I was very young, so I was, anything Mr. T. That's also one of the reasons I wanted a mohawk as a kid.
Oh, really?
Mom said no. It was him and Animal from the Legion of Doom.
Gotcha.
Mom said no. Anyways, Mr. T had it was 2 or 3 season syndicated show in the early 90s called TNT, where basically he was accused of a crime he didn't commit, and this lawyer, got him exonerated.
Mm-hmm.
So he teams up with her to help solve problems and crimes and stuff.
Gotcha.
He's basically her heavy.
Neat.
And I always remember, like, I don't remember one episode, but the one thing I still remember to this day is, like, he's like, oh, this is the point where, you know how you watch, like, comic book shows or TV shows where the guy, they put on their armor suit. It's like, oh,
Yeah, suiting up.
Yeah, when Iron Man puts on his suit, shit's about to go down. They had something similar, but he wasn't armored up. It was like, I'm putting on my street clothes. Like, he'd have suit, he'd suit working with the lawyer, but then this time, I'm going to the locker room and I'm putting on boots and a leather jacket, and it's like that very style where it's like, shink, 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 and you're like, uh-oh, Mr. T's about to mess somebody up. I remember nothing about that show. I remember that.
Yeah, I have shows stuff like that, too. Like, there's one moment from ever heard of Bruno the Kid?
No.
It was a cartoon with Bruce Willis in the 90s. There's one bit of it I remember from what was apparently the last episode where his secret gets found out.
Oh, okay. So anyways, I also just started watching Alf, which I was a big, huge fan of as a kid. I found that I just mosed around Tubi. I'm like, oh, all 4 seasons of Alf. So I started watching that.
Yeah, I missed that one growing up.
Oh, I didn't. That was every week. So I'm going to, it's only 4 seasons, and I actually have the DVDs in my parents' house somewhere. They got it for me for Christmas one year.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I've been trying to keep busy with my other stuff. So yeah, that's boring. Shall we got into Tubi or not Tubi, sir?
Yeah, let's get this over with.
Somebody's streaks got broken today. And would you like to talk about it?
Yep. The wheels gave me Astonishing Tales of Terror, Rocktopusy.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie was just boring. It's kind of sort of about a cult of mind-possessing octopi, rock octopi. But then it's also kind of about a journalist who does things like dance at a strip club to get an interview with the mayor, and how she interacts, how there's this mining thing that goes on, and a guy who met the creatures decades ago detonates a suicide vest trying to kill them.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's weird, and it's underwhelming, is I guess I would put it.
Because at least when I saw like the synopsis and the trailer, it seemed like this was going to be a very Cinemax After Dark kind of like softcore kind of thing.
Absolutely not. That was lies.
Ah, bad marketing.
Yeah, I mean, there were some parts that were okay. Like, there's kind of a romance between the male and female, I guess, leads.
Mm-hmm.
And it, like, one of the things I recall from books I've read is when someone says, intense situations can unite people the way years of marriage can't.
Sure, I've heard that.
That's kind of what happened to those two.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, it sounds like you would not watch this again.
Absolutely not.
What is your letterbox score, sir?
Letterbox score, I'm going to give this 2 stars. Because, like I said, underwhelming.
All right. So, and we are both all officially caught up on Letterboxd up until this week. So,
Mm-hmm. How about you, Xander? What did you watch?
I got my second Clint Eastwood movie.
Yes. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, I got a movie called Cry Macho. It's one of his most recent ones. I want to say 2021, 22. It was during the pandemic, where they would release some movies in theaters, but at the same time, they would release them streaming like the same day.
Yeah, 2021. I looked it up.
Yeah, like they still do it like occasionally, but it wasn't not as prevalent as it was, a couple years ago.
Right.
And here's the thing. This is a weird negative, but it's not a negative. The movie is shot beautifully, but it's shot too well. Because I had to look it up. I had no idea this movie took place. You could have told me this took place now, I would have believed it. It takes place in 1980.
Okay, so it's supposed to be a period piece, but the cinematography doesn't bear that out.
No, like, the movie's shot that well.
Gotcha.
Where it's like, oh, this is supposed to happen like 40 years ago. So, but basically what it is Clint Eastwood is this old former rodeo, right? He rode in the rodeo and retired from injury. And the guy that ran the rodeo, his boss or whatever, was like, hey, I need you to go down to Mexico and get my son from his mother and bring him back.
Okay.
Okay. And the whole movie, and it's a full-on drama. There's not really any action in it. There's no real fight scenes. It's a slow burn drama, full-on 100% drama. So, but yeah, basically, so what it is this whole movie is Clint Eastwood goes down to Mexico to try to pick up the son, bring him back, and he runs into the mother, and he tries to bring him back through the border, and the whole adventure, not really lack of an adventure, it's just how he grows with the son, and the son kind of grows with Clint Eastwood's character, because the whole cry macho thing is very, the title is layered, as in, like, the boy, basically, he gets in trouble for cockfighting, and his rooster is called Macho.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually one of Clint Eastwood's least macho characters. And basically, where it's a thing where he's trying to show the son, who's very, I can do the horses and stuff, I'm very macho, and he tries to show him how macho's not necessarily testosterone, but at the same time, one of those where they learn from each other.
Right. I like the sound of that.
Yeah. And it's actually, like, without credits, it's like 80 minutes. It's a shorter movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, like I said, it's a slow burn, it's a drama, it's a very character-driven movie.
Cool.
And like I said, I'm a big Clint Eastwood fan. I haven't been as a kid. He directed this. I'm a big fan of his work as a director. Like everything lined up for me to think I would enjoy this movie, and I 100% did.
Good deal. What would you rate it?
3.5.
Awesome.
Yeah, 100% would recommend this, at least one viewing. So yeah, 100% would watch this again, but I would give it a 3.5.
Good deal.
So we're gonna go ahead and do our spins for next week. Like I said, we do Tubi or Tubi every week, but we don't do the top fives for the pay per views. So, Bot, as always, sir, you go first.
Alrighty, give me horror.
Okay. No, art house. This could be fun.
Certainly could be. Attack the Block was classified as art house, wasn't it?
It was weirdly, yeah, but that's not. Those aren't the kind of movies when I think art house.
Agreed. Same here.
I think like very pretentious. I think pretentious when I think art house. So you got number 12.
Okay.
Art house films number 12. Okay. Somehow Casino's on here as an art house. I don't know how, but okay. That's not what you got. You got a movie called from 1981 called The Loveless, which actually stars Willem Dafoe.
Oh, cool.
Actually directed by Catherine Bigelow. So okay, so known director Willem Dafoe. You had Willem Dafoe, Catherine Bigelow, who directed a lot of good stuff. In the late 1950s, a biker has an explosive relationship with a troubled rich girl when his gang stops in a small southern town en route to Daytona.
Okay.
And the movie poster seems like it's basically Willem Dafoe shirtless wearing a leather jacket.
Alrighty, I'll look forward to this one.
All right. Well, I'm a Willem Dafoe fan, so that wouldn't be too much of a stretch for me to watch something like that at least once.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let us spin for me.
What are you hoping for?
Something different. I shouldn't open my mouth. I got family movies again.
Alrighty.
And we get number 23. So we go to family movies. So we got 6. Aw! I've never seen this. And I think I might enjoy this in a look. Aw!
Alrighty, lay it on us.
I got the Little Rascals remake from 1994.
I actually have seen that, but only once and a long time ago.
But like this was like we were talking about it earlier with My Favorite Martian, where like back in the 90s they were doing a lot of like movie remakes of a bunch of old TV shows. Like I said, Leave It to Beaver, Dennis the Menace, the Brady Bunch had a couple. But yeah, I used to actually watch the original Little Rascals as a kid.
I never saw them.
I did. That was something I used to watch a lot as a kid. I used to watch like Little Rascals, Abbott and Costello, Three Stooges, that kind of stuff. So, I think it's gonna be fun.
Alrighty, sounds like fun.
Yeah, I get I get the Little Rascals. This, like I said, this seems like this is gonna be a harmless romp.
Gotcha.
So awesome, fantastic, sweet. Here we go. All right, let's go ahead and get into the wrestling part. We are, of course, 1 week out from King of the Ring. That's coming up the 13th of June. We are at June 7th, 1993 in New York City. And big news that happened before the show starts. Yeah, replacement announcer Bill Dunn, who has taken over for the Fink this week, announces we have a new Intercontinental Champion, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I had forgotten that there were weekend shows for a little bit, and I was stumped as to when that could have happened.
It was a house show.
Oh, house show. That makes more sense.
It was a house show because when you had like the Wrestling Challenge and the All American Wrestling for WWF and like the pros and other stuff, very, very rarely would you ever get a title change on those shows.
Gotcha.
It would either have to be like a big house show or like a pay-per-view. Like you would never get like, we're not going to get, because one, you would never get the world champion on Superstars, or if he did, it was never for the world title, or if it was, you knew like Hulk Hogan versus Dino Bravo. You knew Dino Bravo was never winning the world title.
Right.
So, but this was a house show in Albany, and who is the new Intercontinental Champion, sir?
Shawn Michaels got it back.
Yep, and with his new bodyguard, who we just saw on WCW a couple weeks ago.
Right, I can't remember if it's Vinny Vegas or Big Sky.
It's Vinny Vegas, not now here. Right now, he's just known as the Insurance Policy. We'll obviously get his name here soon.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the Raw debut of Kevin Nash in his new character.
Good deal.
And he's a tall gentleman.
He is very tall.
But yeah, we go over to we get into the intro video, and Vince and Randy and Bobby are reviewing the card before they get interrupted by HBK and his insurance policy. before we get our first match of the night, Shawn Michaels will be wrestling Russ Greenberg.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, like I said, they go over this, how we figure out it was at Albany last night. And then Vince added again, where it's like, because Russ Greenberg, I got him in like a quick roll up for 2. And Vince was like, oh, it could happen again. I'm like, not really. Not if you tell us every single time that an enhancement talent gets a move on an established wrestler, oh, this could be the upset. It's like, no, you can't say that every time. Now, like, it means nothing.
It's too telegraphed now.
It's too telegraphed. Like, you're telling us every single time. But we go through this, and I noticed that Shawn hitting with a neck breaker had a real nice snap to it, too.
Yeah. Mostly this was basics, but the basics were solid, as they have been for a lot of this stuff.
Oh, yeah. And I just noticed that at one point that Bobby and Randy were talking, and Shawn Michaels hit an elbow drop, and I think it was Randy that's like, oh my God, he's doing moves that we've never seen right after he hit a flying elbow drop.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, Randy, my dude, you do understand that the flying elbow drop was your finishing move, right?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, I was like, he just did what you used to do as your finisher, and you're like, oh, he's doing moves we've never seen, Bobby. I'm like, bruh, it's the elbow drop from the top. That was your finisher. By the way, Shawn Michaels had one of the best, I think one of the more underrated elbow drops, like, ever.
Yeah, that was a long-distance elbow drop, too, like almost to the middle of the ring.
Yeah, he had a very nice elbow drop. It's one that really doesn't get talked about as much. But yeah, and I'm just like, Randy, that's like Hulk Hogan watching somebody do a leg drop. It's like, oh, brother, I've never seen moves like that before. I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, like this was going through the motions. We knew who was going to win. HBK does win with the pile driver.
3 minutes and 53 seconds. Pretty good.
Yeah, I like this. We established the title change. We establish his insurance policy, who will get the name, here shortly.
Mm-hmm.
And then we go to the last King of the Ring report with Mean Gene. And the only big change, like nothing's really changed. Nothing's really going to change the week before a show, except that because of the title change, the Crush and Shawn Michaels match will now be for the Intercontinental title.
Oh, yeah, and Shawn is pissed.
He is livid. So he actually comes back out to complain to Vince as if Vince, the commentator, had anything to do with this.
Right. Was Vince in charge at this point behind the scenes?
He always was. He owned the company. He owns the company.
Right.
But he was just a commentator. He never did the Mr. McMahon and the owner and stuff until like 96, 97.
Okay.
There was always a commentator.
Gotcha.
So it was, you had the kayfabe president, Jack at the time, Jack Tunney. But yeah, at the time it was like, why does he care what the commentator, what's the commentator going to do?
Right.
But yeah, we have an Intercontinental title match this Sunday, and we get into one of our 2 quote unquote featured matches of the week. Adam Bomb coming back out with Johnny Polo, going up against El Matador Tito Santana.
Yeah. Was Adam Bomb wearing colored contacts? Because it looked like he had jaundice.
Yeah, no, he had like they're supposed to be like, radiated eyeballs, so he had these special like neon contacts in.
Oh my gosh, how did I not put that together? Duh.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm used to it. But no, speaking of crispy, he had a real crisp power slam against El Matador. Like, this was all Adam Bomb.
Yeah.
This was a glorified squash match. But Santana did manage to hit his finisher, the flying forearm. Or like what Jesse used to call it back in the day, the flying jalapeno or the flying burrito.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, once again, this was one-sided. This is all Adam Bomb. I mean, it's always nice to see, even though this is towards the end of his main run of his career, it's always nice to see Tito Santana still could go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as the match comes to its end, Adam starts no-selling, and then the last move is him leaping over the ropes from the apron and slamming Tito in the back of the head.
Yep, got him with the clothesline to the back of the head for the win.
Yeah, that took 7 minutes and 42 seconds. You wouldn't expect an enhancement match to go that long, but this was actually pretty good despite that.
Well, it wasn't like an enhancement match at the level that we saw before this or right after this. Like, we know Tito Santana's established. He's a former tag champion, former Intercontinental champion. He's going to be a future Hall of Famer. This is not, no disrespect, this is not a Russ Greenberg.
Gotcha.
So we get like towards, this is toward the end of Tito's career. So we know he's not going to go over Adam Bomb. At the same time, this may still be an extended squash. He's still going to look good.
Gotcha.
He did his role. So we go back to the next our next to last match, and I didn't like this one. And it wasn't the wrestler's fault. It was Tatanka going up against Peter Weeks. Peter Weeks looked so out of place.
Because, yeah, he was enormous, but he did nothing with it.
No, and it looked like he was just wearing sweatpants over a singlet. And I noticed he kept hacking them sweatpants up the whole time. This match did nothing. And as much as I love Tatanka, we've talked about my love for Tatanka, especially during this run, because I was a Tatanka fan when I was a kid. This did nothing for me. This was not good.
Yeah, the best I can say is there were some nasty sounding chops.
Yeah, but it was just this was not Peter Weeks's week.
Absolutely not.
He looked so out of place. This reminded me of the Chris Sullivan match with Ricky Steamboat a couple weeks ago on Saturday night.
I don't think it was that bad, but it was definitely not good.
It was not one of the better enhancement matches we've seen on, like, most of the enhancement matches we've seen on Raw, at least since the start, have been okay. Like, they serve their purpose, but it looked like the guy at least looks like he knows what he's doing in the ring. Like, this guy did not know. Looked like he looked like he didn't know a damn thing.
Right.
That's what I meant by that. Like, at least with the Russ Greenberg, or, one of my favorites, L.A. Gores, the Dwayne Gills, the whoever's.
Gotcha.
They at least look like they're competent enough. They at least look competent in the loss.
Peter did.
He did not. And Tatanka mercifully ends this with a top rope tomahawk chop.
2 minutes and 16 seconds.
This felt longer than 2 minutes.
Yeah, it felt really long.
This was easily the worst match of this episode today.
Agreed.
And we had audio issues, and this was later on, we'll talk about. We had audio issues, and this was still the worst match of the week.
Definitely.
So we come back, and we actually have Jerry Lawler coming back with the King's Court, his interview segment, coming out with... First, he comes out and does some crowd work. Awesome stuff. Like, Jerry Lawler knew how to... Like, especially if you watch any of his Memphis stuff when he was a heel, he knew how to rile a crowd.
Oh, yeah, I can tell how good he is at that from just this one promo.
Yeah, look up a lot of his Memphis stuff, because he was the king of Memphis, especially in wrestling. Like, that was his territory. So we come back from a commercial, and he comes back and introduces Yokozuna and Mr. Fuji, talking about the title match of King of the Ring, which I think they did more here in the couple interviews they've had with Yoko and Fuji. They've done more to promote this match than Hulk Hogan has done. Like, it seems like at least Fuji and Yoko were trying. Like, we saw the Hulk Hogan interview a couple weeks ago. It just looked like he was just like, all right, what am I going to say? All right, like, I'm not going to put any energy into it.
He was reading from a script, and it sounded like he was reading from a script.
Yeah, like, you could practically see his eyes moving. But Fuji said Yoko has actually put on an extra 50 pounds to prepare for his title match. And he's like, yeah, he eats like 50 pounds of rice and 100 pounds of beef a day.
Yeah, that was a nice little touch.
Well, and it kind of makes sense, though, because we talked about this before with, the sumo and, Yoko being a sumo wrestler.
Right.
They put away some food. Like, if you ever watch what an actual sumo wrestler eats in a day to keep up their physique, I'm not saying they eat 100 pounds of meat a day.
It's a lot, though.
It's a lot of food. Like, this almost reminds me of, like, I like watching videos like, oh, this is what an athlete eats in a day, or, this is what, cheat meals, or, like, what I eat in a day for whatever reason. Like, I find those fascinating. Like, one of those weird YouTube categories you rabbit hole.
Gotcha.
And I was watching a video from Complex. They do, like, videos, like it's a website.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a guy who decided, this was several years ago, but the video's still up on YouTube. Matter of fact, we'll put it up so you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, so what this is this guy that worked for Complex, like, he looked like he was in shape. Like, there were some times where he went to the gym for the day, and it looked like he's in shape. Like, he's not, like,
He's not fat.
He's not fat, he's not a schlub. He looks like he at least works out competently. He decided to eat what The Rock ate in a day. And it was all he could. He didn't finish it, but it was all he could do to just eat every meal, because The Rock at the time was eating. This was a super clean Rock diet. I guess I think this might have been when he was filming Hercules.
Okay.
Where The Rock went months eating clean with 0 cheat days. Like, I think he went like 3 months.
Oh, wow.
It was a lot of cod, which I do like cod. a lot of cod and spinach and a couple steaks. And the guy's trying to eat. He's like, "Oh, that was a lot of food, but I'm good." And then a little bit later, here's your next meal. Here's your next meal. Here's your next meal. And there would be times where the guy is eating his meal, and the next meal would come up.
And he's still working on the previous one?
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh, here you go. Here's the next one."
Oh, gosh.
And I think it was 7 to 8 pounds of cod. And you just saw all the food this dude could not eat. And it was like this was The Rock was eating on the reg to look like Hercules.
Okay.
Yeah, I find that stuff fascinating because it was like, or like, what does Michael Phelps eat on a daily basis? Because I think, where did I read somewhere that when Michael Phelps was in like prime shape, like especially like the Olympics or like swimming competitions,
Mm-hmm.
because of all the calories you burn from swimming to keep up, I think was he doing 10,000 calories a day?
Holy crap.
Well, because all the energy you expunge from swimming.
Right. It's a very intense exercise.
Yeah. And the fact that this, he's considered one of the greatest swimmers of all time, he was putting away some food. And I got to find, I found, there was an article I found somewhere, like, it was just off tangent about just stuff I find fascinating. But yeah, so Yoko's putting away the food to make sure he beats Hogan Sunday, and we'll see where what happens there.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So we come into our main event of the night. Easily the best match of the night. We get it's an 8-man tag because we have this is a regular tag match to help promote our 8-man tag match for King of the Ring. Because at King of the Ring we have the Steiners and the Smoking Guns going up against the Head Shrinkers and Money Inc. So we're gonna have a member of each team wrestle each other tonight. So we get Billy Gunn, Daddy Ass himself, and Rick Steiner, who good old Scotty Steiner's with him, and they're going. Oh, I'm sorry, and Bart Gunn and Scott are with them at ringside, and they're going up against IRS from Money Inc. and Fatu from the Head Shrinkers, who have Ted DiBiase, Samu, and Alpha with them.
So yeah, this is a powder keg.
Yeah, and we talked about this offline. How I love how wrestling logic only works in wrestling,
right?
Where you're going to tell me in any other context than wrestling, does a cowboy and a collegiate wrestler wrestle an IRS agent and a primitive savage?
Nowhere else would that make sense.
And ringside for the one team is the other cowboy and the other collegiate wrestler. And on the other side, you have a rich man in a tearaway sparkly jumpsuit that looks like a tuxedo and 2 more savages.
Yeah, like nowhere else would that make sense. You're absolutely right.
In wrestling, that makes 100% sense. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Cowboys with cap guns, by the way. It makes sense.
It's character driven.
Yeah. And this is what I love at the moments that I love wrestling is only in wrestling does that make sense. You couldn't even make a TV show where that made sense.
Well, clearly they did because we're watching TV, so...
Well, you know what I mean. Like a scripted show.
I know.
So, anyways... we get a nice promo for WWF Ice Cream Bars because Alpha's eating a Randy Savage ice cream bar. And Randy is not happy that Alpha's the one eating him. But, by the way, they threw this in the match. Happy birthday, Howard Finkel.
Yeah, I noticed that.
One of the greatest ring announcers of all time and also a Hall of Famer. Well-deserved.
Well-deserved, absolutely.
So we get a nice quick start from the future Mr. Ass and Rikishi.
Yeah, he's very fast. Like, that surprised me. This is my first exposure to him, I believe.
To Billy Gunn?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's very fast and athletic. And to this day, like, is he doing, like, to this day, like, he still wrestles regularly for AEW. He's kind of like the manager / running buddy with the Acclaimed. Like, he's not doing leapfrogs like that anymore, but he can still go.
Mm-hmm.
And he's absolutely jacked. Like, he's more jacked now than he was then.
Wow, that's impressive.
And he can still go at a high level. So we're talking 30 years later, and he still looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so, and I noticed that, you had Rick Steiner who could throw people at will. Did this.
Yeah.
He had a counter where Fatu went to leapfrog him, and he just grabbed him and he yoinked him and power slammed him to the ground.
I couldn't tell if that was legit or if that was a bot, because it looked like Fatu couldn't quite get over him on that.
Oh, no, that was legit, because Rick picked it up. Like, Rick was the kind of guy, and Scott to a certain extent, more so when he was Big Papa Pump. If the Steiners wanted to throw you,
they were going to throw you.
Yeah, regardless of who you were and how big you were, if the Steiners decided they were going to suplex you,
it was going to happen.
Yeah, they didn't need your help. So we get a bit of dissension from the heels as we go to commercial. Ted's pulling out the wad of money, trying to pay off the guys. Like, hey, calm down. We're on the same side. Here's some money. And the Samoans are just like, they hand Afa a freaking 50 and he eats it.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah, like this. Yeah, that was what the wild Samoans. They were supposed to be primitive savages, and that was what they did. And obviously, once again, you want to talk about the Hall of Famers and future Hall of Famers. You got Billy Gunn, who's in the Hall of Fame with DX.
Mm-hmm.
You got the Steiner brothers, who are in the Hall of Fame. I believe Ted's in the Hall of Fame. If not, obviously he should be. IRS, I think, honestly, should get a nod, whether as IRS or Mike Rotunda. Fatu as Rikishi is in the Hall of Fame as Rikishi. The Wild Samoans, Afa and Sika, the original Wild Samoans, are in the Hall of Fame.
So yeah, there's gold in this match.
There is gold in them Lar Hills. Like there's some of the all-time greats are in this one match.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I noticed, and it just shows you how good the wrestlers were at this time, that you had these mismatched teams. You had one member from each team teaming with each other.
Right.
All these mixed teams still had good chemistry with each other.
They really did, and I was really impressed by that.
I was surprised myself because you like if you're an established tag wrestler with somebody, you're going to have chemistry with your guy,
your partner.
Yeah, if you tag with somebody, you may not have that chemistry. Now, I'm not saying that Rick and Billy had the same chemistry that they would have as like the Smoking Guns or the Steiners, but for a one-off match, they had surprisingly good chemistry. And the same with IRS and Fatu.
Agreed.
So, and like this was a relatively even match back and forth, and we get to the end where Ted is distracting Billy with the suitcase, and IRS comes around, clotheslines him into the ring, like he lands throat first against the top rope, and the bad guys win.
Yep, that's TV time of 10 minutes, 13 seconds.
Oh, great match.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100% that this is the match of the show.
Between the ring work, the character work, like this makes me want to see the 8-man tag on Sunday.
Yes, did a very good job of promoting that.
Yeah, like this would have been a great match if there was no like, hey, they're wrestling against each other on Sunday pay-per-view. If there was none of that and this was just a one-off match, I would have been happy with it anyways. Like, this was a good match.
Yes, absolutely.
So, we come back from commercial, and the big match that Vince announced next week is Doink versus Marty Jannetty. We're also going to see Mr. Perfect in action, as well as Jerry Lawler.
Mm-hmm.
And we're also going to see the fallout of what happens with King of the Ring. Speaking of King of the Ring, Razor comes out, and he's feuding with the 1-2-3 Kid over that upset a few weeks ago. He said he has upped the money that he's just going to give Kid just to wrestle him again, $7,500. And he promises that not only the Kid will be there next week, he's getting the money. He promises the Kid will take the money next week.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to that. And that in today's money, that's about $16,000 now.
Yeah, so a good chunk of change. And we also get his comments about King of the Ring. I think it's a great way to close the show.
Agreed. This was a good ending.
Yeah. Other than the Tatanka match, no notes.
Agreed.
Obviously, the main event was my favorite match of the night.
Not even close.
Yeah, like the Adam Bomb Matador match, for what it was, I thought was an enjoyable match as well.
Yeah, for Tito on his way out, putting Adam Bomb over, it worked.
Yeah, and he looked good. Matador did not look out of step at all. But, like I said, other than the Tatanka match, no notes. So we come out, and now we are going to WCW Saturday night of June 12th, 93. This is the day before King of the Ring. Now, as of this recording, it is not on Peacock.
We had to look it up on YouTube to take our notes.
Yeah. So we get the first match of the night. Guy I'm a fan of to this day, Johnny B. Bad, going up against Paul Lee. And while everybody's making their entrance, they're starting the match. The Blondes come out. They're going to talk trash to Arn and Flair, and we'll see where that goes next by the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
And we announced that we are getting Max Payne and Johnny B. Bad at the Clash of the Champions on, I believe they say it's on Thursday.
Yes, and I have been sold on that match.
Oh, 100%. Basically, this was all Johnny. Power Slam, Atomic Drop, the left hook for the win. This was all Johnny. We want to make him look good before Thursday.
Now, something I noticed, there was a back body drop. Did they always go that high? Because it seems like in the modern day they don't go that high.
Sometimes they did, especially if you talked, like if you had a guy that could. A lot of this, and I've taken many back body drops in my day.
Mm-hmm.
It is actually surprisingly more the person taking it than the person giving it.
Yeah, I can tell it's a jump, right?
Yeah, because basically and this is coming from somebody who actually has taken them, so I know the process. Like, I'm basing you on, I'm putting my hands on your shoulders and jumping.
Right.
So while I jump, the other person is basically grabbing me and helping push me over the top of them. So it's all me. They're just helping the motion.
Gotcha.
So if you got somebody that's strong, obviously, you know, we know how strong Johnny B. Bad is. They can, when they do the push, they can put the extra oomph in it.
Right, and then you go higher, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So yeah, that was the height was coming from Johnny.
Okay.
So yeah, once again we get the Tutti Frutti left hook for the win.
1 minute, 24 seconds.
Yeah. Had fun. And he said that he specifically said, because Tony's ringside with Johnny, Johnny's doing his wild stuff, and he says he is going to kick yo booty with his Tutti Frutti.
He's very good at promos. I've seen that since we've been doing the podcast.
Yeah, we have a good energy, and that was Johnny B. Bad was always good about that. So we come back from commercial, and once again, this is what I'm excited for. We get the assassin again, and he's coming out. He hasn't got that face to face with Dusty, and he wants it. And I'm just like, I am sold on this confrontation. I know we're not going to get a match because once again, it doesn't seem like the assassin in his older age here doesn't look like he would be more of like a manager.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sold on this confrontation.
Agreed. Again, like I said last week, the assassin is very confident, but he's not cocky.
No, but the assassin, obviously we know what he can do if you've seen some of his old stuff.
Yes.
He's considered one of the best masked wrestlers, especially as a heel. I'm sold. And the fact that somebody can sell me on a confrontation, that's one side. For the most part, a lot of this talking has been from the assassin. We've had some comments from Dusty, especially on the build to start Slamboree. I want to see this so bad.
I agree. I would love to see this too.
Once again, I guess this just shows you how good the assassin. And what I liked about the assassin, once again, no screaming. Didn't raise his voice once.
Like a very calm, very collected, very confident.
Yeah, very cold.
Cold. That's good.
Yeah. So we want to see. I honestly myself do not know where this goes. So I'm excited to see where this goes.
I'll look forward to finding out with you.
Anytime we get Dusty involved in anything,
it's going to be a good time.
It's going to be gold. I'm sold on the assassin. I don't know a lot about the assassin, but what I've seen so far, I'm ready for it. And just the way he's been speaking, I'm ready for this.
Yes.
Come back and we get our next match, Barry Windham versus Dave Dunlap. And this was basically just to help promote that he is defending his Barry Windham's defending his NWA World Title against Too Cold Scorpio, Clash of the Champions, and a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, there was a nice suplex followed by, I don't think that was the implant DDT. I think that was just a facebuster.
No, it was just his version of the DDT, but basically it's the DDT for the win.
Okay. Yeah, that took 1 minute, 40 seconds.
No, nothing. Not bad, but just nothing.
Unnoteworthy.
And this I was excited about. So we come back and we get introduced to Sir William and Lord Steven motherfucking Regal.
We saw him earlier, earlier in the podcast, but it's been a while.
Yeah, but he was very white meat babyface. Hi, G. Willer, because I'm happy to be here. We now get the first appearance on Saturday night as fucking Lord Steven Regal.
All right.
The whole pompous, arrogant, I'm British, so I'm better than you. Yes. So much.
Looking forward to seeing where he goes.
And then we get, obviously his manager, Sir William, who people that know their Memphis wrestling know this is superstar Bill Dundee from Memphis. He was another huge name, especially around the Jerry Lawler time. Bill Dundee was one of the top names in Memphis.
I am not familiar with this person.
I know a lot of people aren't, especially if you don't follow old school Memphis stuff.
Gotcha.
But him and Jerry Lawler had some wars.
Okay.
But just the fact that we get I didn't get a lot of Lord Steven Regal at the time because I really wasn't allowed to watch wrestling at the time.
Okay.
But just to see the jumping off point of the Lord Steven Regal, knowing we're going to get the Blue Bloods and we're going to get all this other stuff, and we really get to see his real amazing heel work.
Looking forward to it.
I really, it's nice to really get to show people why I consider him in my Mount Rushmore.
Gotcha.
So, and we noticed that his first match, he is going to be wrestling Marcus Bagwell at the Clash of the Champions on Thursday.
Already sold.
Yeah. Speaking of Clash of the Champions, we come back from commercial. We get a mini movie. Like I liked when they, I wish they would do these more often as like this. Not necessarily like the cinematic wrestling, which I think that needs to be not as much. I think AEW does a good job of not doing that too much,
Mm-hmm.
like cinematic style matches. I'd like to see more of these cinematic like vignettes because we come back from commercial and we get this huge press conference slash rally slash riot where it's Sid, Colonel Parker, Vader, and Harley Racer at this rally riot press conference thing.
Mm-hmm.
I like that, Colonel Parker's in a suit, Harley Racer's in a suit always, Vader's in a fucking suit,
Yeah, he looked good in that suit.
and then Sid comes out with no shirt on and jeans.
Yeah, very incongruous.
Yeah, but then it's like we'll see this. I point it out. I pointed it out before. I pointed it out again when we watched the mini movie promoting Beach Blast. But it happens even crazier when we get there. This was awesome.
It was.
Because we're like I said, we have the 6-man tag. It's Sid, Vader, and Rick Rude against Dustin Rhodes, Sting, and Davey Boy Smith. Which yes, please.
Very yes, please.
And basically what Parker's saying is that he is going to introduce. Basically, we're introducing them as what they're known as the Masters of the Powerbomb because Sid and Vader's finishers are both the Powerbomb.
Right.
It's like here's some. He's going to give before they have a list of people they're going to go after, and top of the list is Sting and Davey Boy Smith, British Bulldog, and Parker's like, here I have here. If you guys retire now, I will send you anywhere you want to go to retire. Any retirement community you want, I'll send you there.
No way they do it.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. They do comment on this. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
So we go back to commercial, and we notice that Teddy Long's in the crowd with some kids, and this is where we have our audio issues. Once again, this is not on Peacock. We had to find a YouTube video. And you and I have been around enough audio and video, we can pick up like quarter of a second, half a second delays on audio.
Yeah.
This was a full, I want to say 15, 20-second delay.
Yeah, I have had YouTube audio sync fixes bookmarked for a while, and they're apparently all gone. I couldn't get any of them to work.
Yeah, and I looked through the comments of the YouTube video, and this was not just us. This wasn't a glitch we had. This was the upload.
Yeah.
And this goes on for the rest of the show. So this kind of, and on top of that, we get when we do see this, we get a segment with Catherine Wright. She's interviewing quote unquote Catches Jack's wife because they're still searching for him.
Mm-hmm.
And this was worse than last week's.
Yeah, this was even worse.
At least they tried to do a little bit of humor with the last week at the Rain Man reference and the Jack Nicholson impression. This was just
uncomfortable.
And I was doing research into this today, or while we were doing the notes for the show, and Mick Foley said that he didn't want it to be like this whole farcical search for Catches Jack. He really when he came up with the idea, when they were working on the idea of how they were trying to keep Jack in the spotlight, he wanted to be come across as sincere and sympathetic, and they were trying to get sympathy points for Catches Jack as he makes his way towards back from this injury, which he actually did suffer a real concussion from that powerbomb.
I'm not surprised. Like that powerbomb on the concrete was vicious.
But the powers that be over his head wanted to make it comical, and he is like, oh, fuck, there's nothing he could do.
You're an employee, you do what the boss says.
Basically. And if this does give you any solace, Boct, Wrestling Observer Newsletter voted this the 1994 most disgusting promotional tactic.
Wouldn't it be 93?
Well, the 94 awards, 93, 94 awards.
Okay.
But basically, this was their most disgusting promotional tactic of the year. This whole storyline.
Agreed. This storyline was no.
And it's not over yet, by the way.
Oh God.
So we come back, Hollywood Blondes, and I didn't catch. It might have been off the glitch, but I didn't catch if they had any lower third for the guys' names they were going up against.
I don't think they named them at all. I didn't hear it, at least.
Okay, and I didn't see it either because they normally put the lower third.
Mm-hmm.
It really the audio really took me out of this.
Yeah, same.
But basically, obviously the Blondes were going to win. Once again, I will never say no to seeing the Blondes on TV. But Austin gets the stun gun in for the win.
Yeah, that was about 1:25.
So, and we go back to the locker room. I like that this was a big, if you notice this, because I'll talk about it here in a second. So we're in the locker room with Arn and Flair talking about the tag title match. Once again, given Arn and Rick on the microphone, especially in the early 90s, gold.
Yeah, you're always going to have a good time with that.
I'm so ready for this match.
I am too.
And so the Blondes rush in, they have a fight, and lockers get thrown. And if you notice that they were in a big, massive, like, makeup room where people are going to do their hair and makeup for events and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because Austin and Flair are fighting, and Flair throws him into a bunch of lockers, and you see the lockers kind of like almost get knocked over, and there's just more makeup tables behind him. Like they just put a couple sets of lockers right there to be the locker room.
Right, like you put up some boxes for somebody to fall through.
Basically, that's what they were there for, but it was the locker room.
Right.
It didn't take me out of it. This was still great. Once again, this might be my most match I'm looking forward to.
For Clash?
Oh yeah, and I got the card right here. I'm going to go over it right now. We're going to continue. We got a match between Ron Simmons and Paul Orndorff. We're continuing that feud, which I don't hate it. Like the stipulation with the TV title was stupid, but I don't blame Ron or Paul for that.
Right, it's a good feud.
Yeah, we're going to get, like I said, we're getting the debut of Lord Steven Regal, who's going to go up against Marcus Bagwell, which could be good.
Got potential.
We're going to get Barry Windham and Too Cold Scorpio. Yes, please.
Yes, please.
We're going to get Big Van Vader, Sid Vicious, and Rick Rude against Dustin Rhodes, Sting, and Davey Boy Smith. God, yes.
Hell yes.
And then Ric Flair and Arn Anderson versus the Hollywood Blondes. Fucking put that in my veins.
For the tag title, to fall.
Yes. Oh, by the way, the dark match, Jim Neidhart defeated Shanghai Pierce.
Oh, cool.
Just so you know.
Okay.
Anyway, so yeah, that's the card. That is for a free show. That's for 5 matches. You're not going to get a lot on there, but for a free TV, that's really good.
Yeah, for free TV, that is absolutely a stacked card.
Yeah. So we go to our main event of the night. Speaking of Sting, British Bulldog, and Dustin Rhodes, they are in a 6-man tag right now against the Wrecking Crew and Dick Slater. And I noticed that I had to put the majority of this match on mute just so I could focus on the match.
Yeah, same.
One thing I did notice is that we like Wrecking Crew are strong dudes, and we know that Sting and British Bulldog are some strong brolic dudes.
Right.
It was even more impressive to watch. Not only was the Bulldog press slamming one member of the Wrecking Crew, he was repping. He was doing reps with him over his head.
Yeah, that was ridiculously impressive to me.
Yeah, like that just shows you how strong Davey Boy Smith was.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite parts of this match is we got some one-on-one time between Dick Slater and Dustin Rhodes, and that's that old school wrestling that I love so much.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, like, I've talked about it ad nauseum how much I like that Mid-South, Mid-Atlantic, Jim Crockett, world-class in Dallas style.
Mm-hmm.
To see Dustin Rhodes and Dick Slater do that style.
Yeah, there was a great ground spot followed by a power slam and an arm drag. That was awesome.
Yeah, like, I love, and like I said, any kind of that Southern wrestling, Mid-South, Texas. Like, I watched that stuff for fun, like, on Peacock, and when it was on the network, like, Mid-South, world-class, like, Jim Crockett promotions, the Mid-Atlantic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I eat that stuff up like frickin' cereal. So, but basically, Rhodes is playing the face in peril, and they're firmly control. They come back from commercial, and he's still in trouble. Like, he played that role so well, though.
Oh, yeah, he was very good at doing that.
We get a tag in. Like I said, it's hard for us to really go over the nuances because the audio really took us out of it. It was really hard to focus because it was a full, I would say, at least a good 15-second delay?
Something like that, yeah, close to.
Like, if it was like a half a second, I could work with it.
Yeah. But
we're talking a full, like, we were getting commercials before the match. We were still getting the commercials prior.
Yeah.
And this was disturbing. So basically, Donnybrook, all 6 men are fighting.
Yep.
And I noticed that it was really awesome that Bulldog press slammed Sting into the Wrecking Crew.
Yeah, that was awesome.
And then Bulldog picked up the one Wrecking Crew he was in the ring with because Bulldog was legal and hit the running power slam for the win.
There was also a spot where Sting and Davey Boy whipped the Wrecking Crew into each other right before that.
Yeah.
That was great. Yeah, power slam for the win, 10 minutes, 24 seconds.
I liked it.
Agreed. That was my match of tonight, too.
Uh-huh. So we go to Tony's ringside with the winners about their match at the Clash, and it finally syncs up right at the end.
Yeah, the sync snaps back.
Yeah, like right as I go to click away the video, it's like, oh, it's synced back, so I got to go back and finish watching the promo. I liked it. This was just, pure Bulldog, Sting, and Dustin Rhodes getting everybody hyped up for the match. Really cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Overall, Once again, I hate to say it, Saturday night was again better than Raw.
I think they were even this week.
I give it just because the Tatanka match was stinky enough for me to give Saturday night the nod.
Okay, I don't agree, but of course we're not always going to agree.
No, of course not. And that's why the show I think the show works so well is we don't kiss each other's ass.
Nope, never have, never will.
Nope. But yeah, like they were close, but if I have to, if we're nitpicking, the Tatanka match is why I give it to Saturday night. I honestly, and even though I give it to Saturday night, my favorite match of both shows was the tag match at the end of Raw.
I think the 6-man tag on Saturday night was my favorite, but the Raw tag match is the honorable mention.
We're basically each other's opposite. We're basically the antithesis of each other.
Right.
By the way, I love that word.
It's a good word.
Antithesis is a good word. And so next week, matter of fact, before we do that, let's go ahead and do our top fives. And if you want to go ahead and do the top 5 music, sir.
Alrighty, we are using the Billboard Hot 100 from June 12th, 1993. Number 5 is a new entry up from number 8, Show Me Love by Robin, who is a European artist.
Okay.
That was the only hit she ever had in America. She's been super popular in Europe, though.
Oh, okay, awesome.
And then the top 4 are the same again. Weak by SWV at number 4, Knockin' to Boots by H-Town at number 3, Freak Me by Soak at number 2, and That's the Way Love Goes by Janet Jackson at number 1.
Oh, awesome. So, new number 3, but we have the one new entry. I do want to just talk about it because it's making a shitload of money. Indecent Proposal is right now number 11. Just because we saw how much it dominated for a good month or two. It still made $2.8 million right now. It's at $96.8 million.
Wow.
But number 5 is Hot Charts Part D. It stayed at number 5. Made $6 million with a grand total of $28.7 million. Dave, which was our number 3 last week, is now number 4 with $6.5 million with a total of $48.6 million.
Mm-hmm.
Our new entry at number 3 is Guilty as Sin. Synopsis here: a female lawyer takes an accused wife murderer as a client, but finds herself morally compelled to portray him one way or another. That sounds like a thriller. I get into those kind of legal type thrillers.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I would watch this. At least try it out. $7.7 million opening week. Number 1 and number 2 are exactly in the same positions. Number 2 is Made in America, that Ted Danson movie. Made $10.1 million for a total gross of $24.2 million. And number 1 is still Cliffhanger, the Sylvester Stallone action flick. $16.9 million for a grand total of $42 million.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do want to talk about, because you know how a lot of movies will do like their Thursday night release?
Mm-hmm.
At number 10, with $3.1 million, because this was all Thursday.
Right.
It's a little independent movie known as Jurassic Park.
Oh.
Do you want to take a guess on what's going to be number 1 next week?
I don't need to guess. It's going to be Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. It made the top 10 just on Thursday releases.
So what? So the tracking week goes what? Friday to Thursday then?
Roughly, for the most part. But it's just the fact that it made, just in its opening day, it made the top 10.
Right.
Shock of all shocks, there was a new number 1 next week.
I can't even begin to guess.
Yeah. Legitimately, we talked about this. If you want to go back to one of our early episodes when we were still doing alternating between wrestling and pop culture, we did talk about Jurassic Park, and I waxed poetic about this. This is legitimately one of my all-time favorite movies.
It's an amazing movie. It still holds up.
Still holds up. The CGI and the special effects still hold up 30 years later.
The practical effects hold up just as well, if not better.
That movie's like, even especially with the music, that movie still hits me on an emotional level. Like, I cannot talk about how much I love the first Jurassic Park.
I gotcha.
I saw it in theaters when this would have been April, or no, it would have been June. I had just turned 11 when I saw this movie.
I can't even imagine what it must have been like for you.
In the screen. And you remember, and you can attest to this fact because we're basically the same age.
Mm-hmm.
Dinosaurs were, especially in the early 90s, dinosaurs were huge.
Yeah.
And I was big into dinosaurs. And I saw this at I just turned 11. And to see that scene with the T-Rex on a big screen.
It must have been magic.
I still remember that. Still remember that moment. And if we remember, we talked about this during the episode. No music during that scene either. It was just pure action. There was no music.
I've forgotten about that.
There was no music during that scene. Where when it's raining and the T-Rex surprises them and the T-Rex chase, there's no music.
Yeah.
I think it honestly would have ruined it without the music. Not ruined the moment, but I don't think it would have been as effective with the music.
Gotcha.
So, and I also like to do the top 5, or excuse me, the top gain and loss of the week. Just we can see where the tastes go.
Mm-hmm.
This was a down week in movies because every single thing, I have the top 20 here. Every single one, if they did not, if they weren't a new movie, they lost money.
Really?
So this was, we're down here. Let me look through here. I would call it the largest gain, which is also the smallest drop here. At minus 20.5% is Menace to Society. It's actually a great movie. It made $4.4 million. It actually gained 49 screens too.
Okay.
But that was the biggest gain, was minus 20%.
Holy crap.
Yeah, like you have off weeks like this in movies.
Yeah, I gotcha.
And you think that's crazy? Wait till you look at the box office draws for 2020, the year.
Well, considering that's when the pandemic hit, that wouldn't surprise me.
Exactly. You want to look that up for fun. That will blow your mind.
Gotcha.
And then the biggest drop is the movie Posse, which was number 10 last week, which is now number 13. We talked about this. This was the Western that was in the top 5 a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Dropped 47.7% from week to week. It lost half its box office from 1 week, almost half its box office from 1 week.
Wow.
It made $1.3 million. It lost 158 screens.
Right, okay.
That wasn't even the biggest screen drop, but it was the biggest drop priced week to week money-wise.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest screen drop was Dragging the Bruce Lee Story, who lost 759 screens.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm excited. So we already know who number 1's going to be next week.
Mm-hmm.
We'll put the new music videos and the trailers on the Twitter page so you guys can see what the hats is. But like I said, and it's spoiler, Jurassic Park damn near outgrosses Indies. As much as Indies and Proposal made its money, in 1 week, Jurassic Park damn near outgrosses it.
Wow.
And there for a while, Jurassic Park was the highest grossing movie of all time.
Now, I'm not surprised by that.
Until a small independent movie took it over.
Titanic, if I recall correctly?
Titanic. But there for a while, Jurassic Park was the highest grossing movie of all time. So we already know what the biggest movie in 93 was.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park. To this day, I'll watch it. It never gets old. And I know damn near know that movie. I read the book. I actually had the book.
I've never really read Michael Crichton, but I've heard he's very good.
He's very good. I read a lot of his stuff, and unfortunately, he's no longer with us. But I read Jurassic Park. The Lost World was really good. I read Congo. One of the last ones, I forget the title, but one of the last ones I remember reading of his new novels. It was one of my deployments. I found it in the bookstore. It had to do with nanobots, and this woman had some sort of mind control from the nanobots. Like a lot of his stuff was very like light science fiction, like technology based, and like science fiction. Like you can see what the science fiction elements are in his books.
Like near future technology, you mean?
Near future, because you can see like Jurassic Park had the science fiction stuff,
right?
And like obviously stuff like Congo, where spoiler somehow there's laser guns at the end of that movie.
Gotcha.
The movie about the gorillas.
Oh yeah, now I know. The Nostalgia Critic reviewed that movie.
Yeah. Also has one of my homies, Bruce Campbell's in that movie for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I love me some Daddy Bruce. Actually, I do want to remember this. I hate to drop the episode on a sad note, but we lost another wrestler this week.
I didn't see that. Who was it?
It was Darren Drozdov. Everybody knows him as Droz, who passed away this week. He was a member of, when they tried to bring back Legion of Doom, he was known as Puke. He was actually, if you've ever seen Beyond the Mat, he's on there. He was the one, he was known, especially when he played in the NFL, he was known to be able to throw up on cue. That's why he was known as Puke in WWE as part of the Legion of Doom.
I see.
But no, he had a nice run as Droz. Prince Albert, who we now know as, Albert from NXT.
Mm-hmm.
He was there with Albert. He had a nice runs. Unfortunately, there was an accident. He wrestled D'Lo Brown on an episode of SmackDown. And there was a freak accident that was nobody's fault, but he landed wrong on a power bomb and broke his neck, and he was paralyzed for the rest of his life.
Oh.
But he was always in great spirits about it, and props to WWE. They still paid him for many, many, many years after the accident.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you always had to say there's always bad things about the company, but they went out of the way to make sure that he was taken care of for the rest of his life.
Right.
You would see him every once in a while, he would make appearances on shows, talk about it. Even after the accident, he had no hard feelings with everybody. He was always in good spirits about it, and unfortunately, he passed away this week.
Okay. Rest in peace.
Yeah, we want to send condolences to his friends and family. I wanted to bring that up at the beginning. I completely forgot about it. I hate to end the episode on a downturn.
It happens like that sometimes.
But he was actually enjoyable to watch. He was a fun guy to watch. So, especially his run with Albert when he introduced Prince Albert. He was named Prince Albert because of the piercing.
Mm-hmm.
So he was basically Droz's personal piercist. It was great. It was Attitude Era, late 90s stuff. It was actually fun to watch.
Gotcha.
That is Dropkicks and Attractions for this week. Next week, no top fives, like I said, because next week is King of the Ring. We're going to be talking about King of the Ring 93.
Looking forward to it.
Yep. Once again, I know who wins, but you've said you've already picked your pick to the win to King of the Ring is going to be?
Bam Bam Bigelow.
Actually, you picked Lex Luger, unless you want to pick Bam Bam at this time.
Oh gosh, my brain is just fried lately.
You're going to pick Bam Bam or you're going to pick Lex Luger?
I'll stick with Luger.
Okay, we'll stick with Luger. We'll see how that goes. I already know who's going to win, so spoiler alert, it's Tatanka. Am I lying or am I not? We don't know.
Well, I will just have to deal with the suspense.
So, obviously, yeah, we're going to be talking about King of the Ring 93. Like I said, pay-per-views are in full. We got a little bit more detail on the pay-per-views. And then the week after that is not only the fallout from King of the Ring, we got Clash of the Champions 23, so a lot of wrestling coming up in the next couple weeks, folks.
Yeah, that's going to be a supersized episode.
Yeah, that was actually, ironically, our first ever episode was like that, too. Because our first ever episode was Clash of the Champions 22.
Yep.
So, you can find the podcast at capital D and capital A Podcast 1 on Twitter. We are on YouTube, Rumble, Stitcher. Unfortunately, Stitcher's leaving in August, but you can still find us on Stitcher while you can. Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, Good Pods, iHeartRadio. Where can they find you, sir?
I am Big Boct, BIGBOCT on most socials. I'm most active on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Reddit.
Okay, and do you have any projects coming up? I know you were talking about getting into some of your old projects again.
And nothing coming up at the moment, but I did just do a commentary round for the Speed Gaming Twitch Collective on one of their community races for the Super Metroid Link to the Past combo randomizer.
Okay, so yeah, if you guys are interested in that, he always, when he goes on social media, he'll always post when he does races. If you want to listen to him, by the way, I'm not just saying this to Casey's ass because I don't. He's very good at. He has a voice for radio, so he's very good as a commentator. I've actually heard him do it before.
So yeah, I remember you said I actually kept you engaged in games you don't care about, so that's a pretty big endorsement.
Yeah, so like if you like speedrunning, like he'll if you like his analysis here, you'll enjoy it with the speedrunning. So I'm sure whenever you do a race, you'll pop it on the social medias for everybody to join. And matter of fact, we'll pop it on the DNA Twitter page too for those following it, so they can, we'll see you on your other projects.
Yeah. And where can we find you, Xander?
I am Xander and Boct everywhere, Twitch, Twitter. I have it on Kick. I don't know if I'm still debating on whether or not I'm going to use Kick, but I have the name already. Twitch, Twitter, Kick, Rumble, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, basically most of the socials. Gonna get back. I'm trying to focus on like a lot of the retro old school stuff. It's fairly just in general branding wise. I'm working on a rebranding. I actually picked up I'm going to try to bring back, right now we're on the 2nd of July at the recording of this. Would be tomorrow, the Monday the 3rd. I'm going to bring back some streaming on Twitch, more like console gaming stuff. I picked up a 360, Xbox 360. I got a stack of games. We're going to be doing I have a bunch of like adventure, story-driven, single-player stuff, which is basically my wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be doing the 360 Fable duology.
That's 2 and 3, right?
2 and 3. We're going to be doing the Fable duology, which, again, love that word too, duology.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, we're doing the Fable duology, so we're going to start with 2, do 2 and 3. And then I have other stuff. Like, I have some really solid heavy hitter games for the 360 that we're going to be playing. I scored a really good deal at my local store for all the games.
Yeah, and the 360 is a gold mine just in general.
Well, it's one of my all-time favorite consoles, and so eventually the idea is we're going to have 360 PS2, and a Genesis.
Right.
And all three of those consoles have amazing heavy hitter games.
Absolutely.
So we're going to be a lot more retro gaming content on my channel on Twitch. So go ahead and follow us there. And we will see you guys next week for King of the Ring 93.
Alrighty, that's been Dropkicks and Attractions. See you next mission.